co-insurance, and deductibles. I don't think anyone's heard of that one. Have you heard of that one before? I haven't heard. I want to thank them. Great companies. Today I spoke with Wolfgang Puck. Wolfgang Puck is a great restaurateur, as you know, as is Jean-Georges and Thomas Keller and Daniel Boulud and other leaders in the restaurant business, which has been probably one of the hardest hit industries. I've directed my staff to use any and all authority available to give restaurants, bars, clubs incentives to stay open. You're going to lose all these restaurants, and they're not going to make it back. They have to get going. So what I'm doing is I'm going to tell Secretary Mnuchin and also our great Secretary of Labor, who you know very well, to immediately start looking into the restoring of the deductibility of meals and entertainment costs for corporations. That set the restaurant business back a lot when it was done originally and then done not so long ago. And we're going to go to deductibility so that companies can send people to restaurants. I think it'll have a tremendous impact and maybe keep them open. I mean, don't forget, some are closing right now, despite the fact that they could be open in the not too distant future. We expect that. But there are some that aren't going to be able to get open, and we want to make sure they do. So we're going to look at the restoring the deductibility of meals and entertainment costs for corporations so that corporations can send people to restaurants and take a deduction on it like they did in the old days. That was when restaurants were doing really well. The financial relief bill I signed on Friday provided historic relief for American workers and small businesses and includes $350 billion in job restoration and retention. So if you look at job retention loans for small businesses, that's a big deal, with loan forgiveness available for businesses that continue paying the workers. So it's $350 billion. Job retention loans for small businesses with loan forgiveness available for businesses that continue paying workers. I mean, how about that? $300 billion in direct cash payments are being sent to every American citizen earning less than $99,000 per year, $3,400 for the typical family of four. So they'll be getting a check for $3,400 for the typical family of four. Approximately $250 billion in expanded unemployment benefits. Under this plan, the average worker who has lost his or her job will receive 100% of their salary for up to 4 full months. The bill provides for these unemployment checks to be delivered through the existing state unemployment systems, not us, state. And I was opposed to this method because many of the states have very antiquated computer systems that are 45 years old, and they're not prepared to handle this kind of distribution, this kind of money coming in so quickly. They're not set up for that, and I didn't want to do it, but our opponents wanted it, so we did it. And if they don't get their money fast, I'm going to ask that we convene the federal government, that we come back to Congress, and we'll do something where we take care of it, because we can take care of it very easily and quickly, and I said that. But a lot of these systems are so old and so antiquated at the state level that they're going to have the money, they're going to get the money very quickly, but they're not going to be able to distribute it. So remember what I said, and we will, if we have to, call Congress back or find some other way of delivery of the money. Throughout this great national struggle, the American people have embodied the unrivaled patriotism and willpower that has led America to conquer every challenge, every single one in our nation's history. More than 90% of Americans say they are staying home as much as possible, putting their lives, their careers, their educations, and their dreams on hold out of devotion to their fellow citizens and to their country. Social distancing, that's the way you win. These shared sacrifices are pulling our nation together like never before. Family bonds are strengthening. Neighbors are looking after neighbors. It's incredible. I'm seeing, you're seeing, everybody's seeing what's happening. Communities are rallying for the cause, and old divisions are fading away. The Americans of every background are uniting to help our nation in this hour of need. It's up to 151 countries. So when we say our nation and the world, when you think of it, 151 countries. Somebody said to me today that wasn't in this particular world, they didn't know that we had that many countries. 151 countries, that's something. And some are struggling at a level that nobody would have believed possible. If you look at Italy, if you look at France is having big problems, Spain is having incredible problems. Something we did very well is when we stopped the inflow from China at a very early level. That was a good thing to do, great thing to do. We would have had thousands and thousands of more deaths. And we also stopped the inflow from Europe at a very early level. But those things were very important, especially the initial one, because we had never done anything like it where we closed our borders to a country like that. The modeling put together by Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci and our other top healthcare we have, and these people are amazing, the healthcare experts who in this country are the best in the world. They demonstrate that the mitigation measures we are putting in place may significantly reduce the number of new infections and ultimately the number of fatalities. I want the American people to know that your selfless, inspiring, and valiant efforts are saving countless lives. You're making the difference. The modeling estimates that the peak in death rate is likely to hit in 2 weeks. So, I'll say it again. The peak, the highest point of death rates, remember this, is likely to hit in 2 weeks. Nothing would be worse than declaring victory before the victory is won. That would be the greatest loss of all. Therefore, the next 2 weeks and during this period, it's very important that everyone strongly follow the guidelines, have to follow the guidelines that our great Vice President holds up a lot. He's holding that up a lot. He believes in it so strongly. The better you do, the faster this whole nightmare will end. Therefore, we will be extending our guidelines to April 30th to slow the spread. On Tuesday, we will be finalizing these plans and providing a summary of our findings, supporting data, and strategy to the American people. So we'll be having lots of meetings in between, but we'll be having a very important statement made on Tuesday, probably Tuesday evening, on all of the findings, all of the data, and the reasons we're doing things the way we're doing them. We can expect that by June 1st, we will be well on our way to recovery. We think by June 1st, a lot of great things will be happening. I want every citizen in our country to take heart and confidence in the fact that we have the best medical minds in the world tackling this disease. We have the best science, the best researchers, and the best talent anywhere working night and day to protect your family and loved ones and to overcome this pandemic. With the grace of God, we are rising to the occasion. We are proving that no darkness can overshadow the eternal light of American courage. We will win, and when we do, we will rebound with astonishing force and speed. We will be stronger than ever, and we will have learned so much where something like this can never hurt us to the extent it has, and the world. Again, in our present crisis, the strength of our people is our single most important asset, and together we will defeat this invisible curse, this invisible enemy, and rise to incredible new heights. So I just want to thank you all for being here, and we'll take some questions if you'd like. Yeah, please, Kelly.
Dr. Fauci said there could be in excess of 1 million cases in the United States and deaths could exceed 100,000. Do you accept that assessment, and has that formed your thinking about extending these guidelines? And you also talked about New York. Were you suggesting there has been inappropriate use of masks or improper conduct with supplies?
No, I want the people in New York to check Governor Cuomo, Mayor de Blasio, that when a hospital that's getting 10,000 masks goes to 300,000 masks during the same period, and that's a rapid period, I would like them to check that, because I hear stories like that all the time. You know, we're delivering millions and millions of different products, and all we do is hear that, can you get some more? But when you hear that, and I heard that from one of the great companies of the world at doing this, it's a client. And they're going from, you heard it, 10,000, 20,000 tops to 300,000. And that's a hospital that's always full. So I think people should check that, because there's something going on. Whether it's not, I don't think it's hoarding. I think it's maybe worse than hoarding, but check it out. Check it out. I don't know. I think that's for other people to figure out. But you don't go from numbers like that. Now, other equipment likewise, because we're delivering a lot of ventilators. And we're building, by the way, we're building and buying, and we have a lot of ventilators that we're going to be sending out very soon. We also have right now in the stockpile almost 10,000 ventilators that we have to hold in case of emergency. We don't want them going out, and then Louisiana has a tremendous problem, which we now know they do. You know, all of a sudden it came very quickly. Louisiana was doing so fantastically well that all of a sudden it was a big rash of cases. So we have to be prepared to move the ventilators. Are very important pieces of equipment. They're very expensive, and they're very complex. It's like building a car. You know, these are expensive, complicated, very complicated pieces of equipment. So we now have 10,000 and we inherited a system which was broken. Just like, I'll never forget the day when a general came and said, "Sir, my first week in office, we have no ammunition." That was in the military. We've now rebuilt our military, stronger than it's ever been, and we have so much ammunition. You wouldn't believe it, how much ammunition we have. But the same thing here. We had a stockpile that was deficient. We had testing that was no good. We had a testing situation that just wasn't right. It was okay for very small cases, but it was obsolete and it was broken, and it was only good for a very small situation. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask Dr. Fauci to come forward and discuss the number, because I think the number is going to be a very different number than the numbers that you talked about. Please, Doctor, you might talk about that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, the number I gave out is, based on modeling.